third time's a charm. Okay, houseplant tour for the folks that I will end up giving this to. Giving the plants to when I'm having to downsize and do the things. And for my own sake for a journal. Starting in the bathroom on a not so sunny part of the day, which was there until my phone decided to keep cutting off the video. But now, of course, the sun is gone. I will say it again, even though it wasn't on here before. I have a cold, and I'm not good at this game because it's new to me, so bear with me. I'm going to start at the top here. I've got... This guy is kind of like an aloe, but it's got more of the like, these little edges are kind of bumpity. And then his baby brother, that's just called a mini succulent. And I think every single one of my houseplants has been repotted in the last 2 years. So some of them my sister gave to me, like these jades were part of a bigger version and are now repotted in new cactus soil in old original orchid pots, and then some that I got from the nursery that I really like, these darker colored terracottas. This is my snake plant, which is a baby of the big one that came from a client of mine, my daughter's 3rd grade teacher. And then this one is a baby aloe and some lavender bits. Here I've got the smaller of the two that were part of a snake plant that my sister gave me. Again, repotted in its appropriate soil, I think, and sitting inside of an old container that at one point held my orchid. I don't know if that's original to the orchid, the bigger one that I have in the other room. This one is propagated from runners from a client, lives up on one of the mountains that I absolutely, she has the best houseplants, like a jungle in her house, and this one is like baby elephant ears, but it's a houseplant, so it's not really that. I don't remember what they're called, because of course I don't retain names. And he puts out new ones. I think it was just like 2 leaves when I got it, maybe 3. I think it was 3, and I got it only, I think it was like 5 months ago. Anyway, and it throws off these runners and then becomes a whole pot full of them, where it's kind of like strawberries, I guess, in the way it throws them off. And then over here, I'm going to switch hands because my hand is tired already. Sorry for the shakiness. And then here, I've got 4 baby jades that I repotted. I want to say it was like, I think I pinched them off in December of 23, and it's now April of 25, so it took them a couple of months to I think what they call heal, dry out and heal the sore, the cut, and then to start putting out. What you can see over here is, ooh, that didn't work. There we go. See the little hairs? So what happened was they were laying in the window for probably a month and a half, and then they started to curl as they would grow while they were healing. They were growing in the windowsill here in the bathroom, and then eventually they had enough hairs on them after they had started to turn directions, because I left them with their cut side up so they wouldn't get moldy, and then the other side started to curl, and I didn't realize that was not necessarily best, but it was fine. I put them in the dirt, and each one of them I ended up just setting at the top where they'd already grown. You can see like the direction of this. So they'd already grown in a U shape, a little bit of a U shape. So the top, the newest growth would have been here, and then they had already started to put down roots at the bottom. So I just set them on top of the dirt because the more I tried to put them in the dirt, they would mold. They like to put their own roots down. Apparently that's a succulent thing. I did not know that. Same with the aloes. Every time I try to plant the aloes in the dirt, they die. They get moldy and stuff, or soggy or whatever. And then just recently, I want to say like within the last month, this guy has started growing out similar to, I assume, what's about to happen here, because his bulb, which was originally just normal stem size, kind of like this, because it was like I cut him off like right there, laid him in the windowsill, and then they started to like turn. And then eventually, even though they've been sitting here growing plenty, this guy's bulb has gotten fat and he started to shoot roots out. So I don't know if he's going to do the same thing as this guy over here, where he's shooting off side branches. That's the first I've seen from any of my plantings, my cuttings of the succulents. This one, where they put it off to the side. That's weird. Anyway, and then over here I've got, I think these are called philodendrons. Mom would be very disappointed because I can't remember names of this, and she used to say it all the time. I think it is I think they call it phylos for short. Phylos, not phylos. People will call it that for short. Anyway, I took these from a variegated one that I got from Mom years ago that I think originally was Grandma's. And I've got another not quite so variegated one in the studio that was also Grandma's. And I took what, I'll show it in the other room. I took the bits that were, well, this part, this long bit, oh gosh, I suck at this camera thing. This long bit I cut off of the one in the other room. I'll show you in a second. And then the other part came from, I don't know if you can see this. You can see it better than the ones in the green room. There was a bunch coiled around the bottom of the base that just had lost all its leaves, and I had read somewhere that you can propagate them by cutting those what are they called? This is very shaky, sorry for that. The leafed bits. So like if this didn't have a leaf there and there's a bunch of that, then you can cut it here and there, and eventually this part will put a root out, and eventually this part will put another leaf out, which is what these guys are. It'll be more obvious when I show you in the bedroom. But once they had rooted in the sphagnum moss, which is where I was told to do it, I did it in sphagnum moss in bags for a minute, and I put them in used to-go containers. So they got full sun, and they kept their little terrarium closed environment, opened them twice a week to get air, and then make sure the moisture was okay, and close them back up. And then eventually they put down enough roots that I could put them in the dirt, at the top of the dirt, and let the roots go down. And eventually the little leaves started to grow, and when I transplanted them all together, well, it's weird. They threw one leaf, and then eventually the one leaf died, and then a couple more have come. All of the house plants over here overwintered in some really cold temperatures because I didn't turn on the heat over here very much at all, because money, and I wasn't really staying over here, so I didn't figure there was any point in spending extra money. So I kept the house from freezing and the pipes from freezing, and kept it functional for the plants but not thriving. So lots of my plants actually suffered. These ones didn't die, and fascinatingly, even the succulents didn't die. They just didn't thrive. And these guys didn't either. They didn't die. They just didn't super thrive. I'm sure the watering wasn't ideal. I know it wasn't, because the orchids suffered too, and so did the, what are these guys? Monsteras. Then over here I've got something that is not a jade, but like a jade. Or maybe it's a variation of a jade. It has different, oh look, there's air roots. It has different types of leaves. And I've got two of these little pots, and inside I put this little other jade looking thing that I had in the windowsill for the last, I guess it was 2 years ago. They were growing in my pots. And then I put them up here for a while, and then they were not thriving. I think it was overwatering them or something. And eventually I let them, because they were starting to get moldy and die, I let them get some air and dry out a little bit and put them in this dirt. And they are thriving. And then I got some from that same client on the mountain. She has a very thriving whole windowsill full of terrariums and such of succulents, and she has these little guys right here that are so cool. This guy who looks like he's dying, he tried to die right away. It's been several months. And then over here I have a different version of this jade thing. It's not quite the same as either of the jades. And inside his pot, I don't know if you can see color wise, there we go. It's a little different of succulents. These little gizmos here, I don't know. It's like, this one's cool. And then over here, there's a slightly different one. And they're not hens and chicks. I don't know what they are. They're cool. Anyway, these leaves look like they're dying and wimpy and smushy, but they're actually not. It's just that they are getting sun in different directions. And currently they're not getting, well, the direct sun areas apparently turn brownish, reddish on succulents. It's kind of cool. And look at all that new growth at the bottom. He's happy. Okay, and then I have this monstera that's miniature. And he's so cool. Look at him. All right, so it is small. And I think he's lost one leaf probably in the winter. But you can see he's already got a significant air root, which I need to, whoops, why are we not there? This one I will bend down and put him in the dirt, because that is one of the methods of keeping them fully nutrients happy. Because in the wild they would be wrapping around a tree and getting nutrients from the rain and the bark and whatever other foliage and flowers and such are around them. Anyway, he's tiny and he's growing really well. And I learned that they are very similar to orchids in that they do not want much water. I lost a lot of leaves on my monsteras. Sorry for the vocal fry. This winter because of the weather. The temperature was so low in the house, and I overwatered by keeping them at the same watering rate as I had during the summer. And that was a mistake. And then, of course, I used warm water sometimes, and with the temperature shock from the air and the warm water was too much for them. So the orchids and the monsteras all ended up with yellowing and limp leaves. And like this guy, I think lost 2 within the last month. And so did this guy. This is, I don't remember what type, but this one belongs to my sister, and she will get it back soon as I can make it up to her place. And she will get whatever others that she wants from me. This is all these extra growths. He has so many more, not just flowers, but extra like branches of flowers, which most of the orchids that I have had do not have multiple branches. And this one, check him out. I don't know, it's probably not going to focus, of course, but it has yellow in the center of the flower and these cool stripes. And what a fun color. Anyway, she's going to be happy about that one still being alive. And at some point I will do a better video of care for each of the plants she decides to keep. Probably gather them together and tell her how to do them so that her and her kids can take care of them. This is my espresso orchid. Was teeny tiny. I think my sister's was in this one, or one about the same size as that, and my espresso orchid was in this one. It's so small. And then my big huge orchid was in this one originally. And I have another client who has the most cool orchids and has a jungle in her house and on her porch, and it is amazing. And she was telling me about orchid pots and how to repot them, and then she invited me over to help me repot these guys as they had gotten past their flowering season, which I did with appropriate amounts. Well, I don't know if it's appropriate amounts, but what I thought was appropriate amounts and variation of mixture of the sphagnum moss, or whatever kind of moss, orchid moss, whatever it's called, and orchid bark, and lava rocks in these, and some charcoal. And then this one, it seems like it has more moss than it needs to, because for whatever reason it's consistently been more moist inside here than it has in here, and both of them I thought had the same ratio, but apparently not. It seems to retain moisture too much, and maybe it's partly because the holes on this are not aerated as much as this one. But what I learned recently is that the espresso orchid, this guy right here, does not want to be repotted very often. Well, it doesn't mind, it just won't throw flowers for another year or two while it adjusts to its new rooting medium and its new space and container. So if you disturb it too much, it will go dormant, which it has happily done for the last year and a half. No. Yeah, it's been about a year and a half since I repotted it. And it's healthy, except for those 2 leaves that I killed in the winter. It's got, I don't know if you can see it in this lighting. Yeah, it's got some very healthy roots and even new growth on the roots. It's had new growth on the roots for a while. And wait a second. No, see that down there? I thought that was, it's not. It's actually a cut old stem. It's got a couple of those. Anyway, it'll be okay. And these orchids, the cool thing also is the part that gets the direct sunlight seems to be turning red, like the, what are these guys called? The jades and such. And they want water infrequently as well, and a lot of drainage, but they also definitely want to be doused. And whereas I guess succulents don't. This guy right here also came from the lady with all the plants on the mountain, and it has, let me turn it around, it has this little, it had a bunch of leaves on it and it died, and I left it in the water and it was just collecting gross, but I was just going to leave it. And it looks like, yeah, there's algae or something in there, but it looks like, I don't know if you can see it, there's a little leaf right there, that guy. And it has these really cool variegated stripy dark green leaves, and it's this awesome vine that takes over a whole pot. But I guess I almost killed it, and who knows if I successfully be able to. This one is my trusty shamrock transplanted from the one that I have had for 23 years. I've got some outside, some in my bedroom. I've given some to my daughter. I think I gave some to a couple of clients at one point. So I've got a green one, a couple of green rhizomes, and the purple ones. And the purple ones had flowers recently. I don't know why they didn't have flowers now, because they seem to throw flowers whenever they're happy. But the green one in here has never had flowers, and I think it's because it's competing in the same soil. The ones outside, the green ones, have less flowers and they don't thrive as much. The ones inside my other bedroom, the green ones are fine in their own pot, as long as they're not sharing space with the red ones. So maybe when you mix them, you get the green ones don't flourish as much, because I think the red ones dominate. Or purple, I guess. Reddish purple. Look at their leaves. So cool. Anyway, I'm going to pause and start over with the monsteras.